Hello everybody and welcome back to Bring Your Own Popcorn, and welcome to day number 3 of the 12 Days of Christmas, where I watch and review a Christmas film that I have never seen before. And in today's episode, I will be watching and reviewing Jack Frost. So this will actually be the first time in the 12 Days of Christmas that I will be watching a film that critically does not get good reviews. Klaus and Arthur Christmas, they get really good reviews, and whilst I didn't like Arthur Christmas, it still does. It's got like a 90-something% in Rotten Tomatoes. Whereas this film is critically panned. And I wanted to do that for this series. I wanted to pick a varied selection of films with all different review scores and such. So this is the first one that doesn't get the best of reviews. I think it actually gets something like a 19% on Rotten Tomatoes. And I have seen bits of this film before. I think I've seen the first half an hour of this film so many times. Did you ever have that film that it's not a horror movie, but it freaked you out as a kid and you would have to turn it off every time you tried to watch it? Yeah, this was this film for me. This was that film for me. It really freaked me out. And can you blame me? Jack Frost looks terrifying in this film. I mean, just look at him. He is the stuff of nightmares. Oh, he's so freaky. But I'll be putting my fears to one side to watch and review it today. So, without further ado, let's crack on and watch Jack Frost. Okay, so here we go. Jack Frost, let's quickly read the description. After musician Jack, Michael Keaton, so it's got a good actor in it, it's Michael Keaton, dies, he regrets not having spent more time with his son and returns to Earth as a talking snowman. 1998. And he comes to Earth as this horrifying individual down here. I mean, that genuinely looks like the poster for one of those, like the Ginger Dead Man, you know what I mean? Like those really creepy B horror films that are, yeah, I'm nervous about this one, I'm not going to lie. But here we go, let's watch Jack Frost.
Down. Whoa! Thanks for giving me a second chance to be your dad.
Warner Brothers is proud to present Michael Keaton.
I'm a frozen freak of nature.
And Kelly Preston.
Freeze, mister.
She's obviously not talking to me.
In the story of a man who got a second chance to be the world's coolest dad.
As long as you hold someone in your heart, you can never lose them.
Jack Frost.
Okay, so I just got done with Jack Frost, and as I said, I've tried to watch this a few times over the years, especially when I was younger. It's probably actually been about 15 years since I last tried to watch this film, and yeah, it always used to freak me out. I used to get to the scene where he transforms into the snowman, and I used to have to put it off because it would be freaking me out too much. And yeah, I finally managed to get to the end of it this time, and I realised that I wasn't missing out on much. This film was pretty lame. And even though I like to go into films with an open mind, I was kind of expecting this film to be bad because of all the negative reviews that this movie has online. It was an overly sentimental and soppily executed Christmas film. Let's first talk about the story. So I like the idea of giving the Jack Frost story a kind of modern update, like a modern spin on it. And I think that the setup that they do for this is actually pretty decent. However, in saying that, I do think that the setup and most of the film is incredibly cliched. One of the most prominent cliches in the film, and I'm honestly sick of seeing it because it's in so many movies like this, is the dad's too busy with work to go to the kid's sports game, but he promises that he'll go, and then he doesn't show up, and the kid falls out with him. Yeah, it's such a boring cliche, and this film just does it with no real creativity. It just does it again. It doesn't do anything new with it. It's such a boring, predictable cliche, and it's very rarely well used. I do think that the first half an hour is probably the best part of the film though, because once we get past that first half hour, we get an extremely lame story where nothing really happens. And the film is relying on its non-existent comedy to try and pull the plot along. You can tell that the writers think that their jokes and their gags are absolutely hysterical. I can actually see them in the writer's room writing these jokes down and laughing to themselves at how funny that they think these jokes are. But they just aren't. Plain and simple, they just aren't funny. I genuinely think I could count on one hand the amount of times that this film actually made me laugh. And when I say laugh, I mean a light chuckle. I didn't ever properly laugh at this film, but I could count on this hand how many times it made me chuckle. Even though that they put another gag and another joke every other second throughout the film. The film was full of gags and jokes, but just none of them landed. The film also tries to pull on the audience's heartstrings by the end, and it just doesn't work because you have no connection to these characters whatsoever. It's actually a decent idea for a film, and if it was redone nowadays, I think it could be executed well, but the writers just wrote a stinker of a script. In terms of the performances in this film, I think they're fine. They're just fine. There's no one exceptionally great. There's no one exceptionally terrible. It's just all middle of the road kind of performances. Michael Keaton is just sleepwalking through the full thing. You can tell he is only there because he's going to get a hefty paycheck from starring in the film. There are some scenes where he is pretty charming, doing his usual Michael Keaton shtick, especially in the first half of the film. But when he has to give a voice performance after his character turns into a snowman, that's where he really fails. He's not a great voice actor, in my opinion, and he's not really giving any emotion into his voice. He's not putting any emotion into the character whatsoever, so it all comes across as a little bit flat. Kelly Preston gives a decent performance as the lead female character in the film, and while she isn't anything great, you at least can tell that she wants to be there. Joseph Cross, the kid actor in the film, also gives a decent performance, and he especially shines in the more emotional parts of the role. However, a lot of his lines, especially the ones more comic in tone, come across as really forced and really flat. He has not got great comedic timing. However, if there ever was a saving grace of a film, it is Mark Addy's performance in this movie. I love Mark Addy in absolutely everything he's in, and I think the scenes that he's in this movie are easily the best scenes of the film. He was the only one that actually managed to elicit laughter from me, and therefore I'm going to say he gives the best performance of the film. Direction-wise, I thought a lot of it was pretty basic. It was just your run-of-the-mill, standard Christmas flick direction. No real thought was put into where the camera was placed to shoot scenes, or at least no thought was put into how to make the shots look interesting. I thought the practical effects were great, and whenever Jack Frost was the Jim Henson designed puppet, it looked really, really good, I thought. Even though I still think the puppet is absolutely terrifying. However, whenever the film decided to go down a more CGI route, I think it completely fell flat on its face. There were some really crappy effects in this film, and people might say, oh, it came out in 1998, give it some slack, but there were other films that came out before this one that has really good CGI on a similar budget. It was just pure laziness from the special effects department. Overall, whilst Jack Frost wasn't terrible, it was pretty bad. It's a good idea for a film in concept, but it was just really poorly executed. I genuinely think if they gave this script a really big rethink, and they bumped up the comic aspects of it a little bit more, spent a little bit more time in the jokes, even maybe handed them to other writers who would be able to write funnier jokes, this would have bumped my score up a lot. But as for now, as the film is, I would give Jack Frost a 4 out of 10, and this one sadly does not get my recommendation. But that's just my thoughts. Please let me know what you think of Jack Frost down in the comments below. I try and read and respond to every single comment. I absolutely love reading them. So put down in the comments what your thoughts on Jack Frost are. Please join me back here tomorrow at 6 PM for day 4 of the 12 Days of Christmas, where I will be watching and reviewing Christmas with the Cranks. Thank you everyone for watching. Please remember to like, comment, subscribe, share with your friends, all that jazz, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.